Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and this is the screenshot of me hitting rank 1 Orianna. I don't know why I don't have a screenshot of the leaderboard, just have it like this, but you can see here, we're rank 1 Orianna, so we're going to give you guys a guide, first going through the build, then going through all of the abilities and combos, and lastly going over a gameplay explaining the typical things you want to do in a game as Orianna, so let's get right into it. Okay, so going into the build portion now, I do have to show you a screenshot from an old video because the servers aren't currently working, but yeah, typically you're going to start with mana boots. After mana boots, you're always going to go loot and Secco. Second item, you're going to go Infinity Orb almost every time. And third item, Death Cap every single time. The only switch you might make with your first three items is second item can be Ocean Eye Trident if they have an absolutely absurd amount of shielding. But usually you're not going to do that. Then fourth and fifth item is where it becomes more varied. You're going to go Crown of the Shattered Queen if you don't have anything else you specifically need, or if you need a lot of defense because the enemy have a lot of aggressive champions or champions with a lot of stuns and abilities that will target you. If you don't need Crown, you're going to go for Ocean Eye Trident if you need anti-shield, Morello Nomicon if you need anti-heal, and that's pretty much it. So again, Crown and then Soul Stealer as your last two items if you don't have anything specific that you need, as you see in the screenshot. But then if you need anti-shield, you go for Ocean Eye Trident, fourth or fifth, depending on how much shielding they have. The more shielding, the earlier you're going to go. And then again, you go anti-heal, Morello Nomicon, fourth or fifth, depending on how much healing they have. For the runes, you're always going First Strike, Sweet Tooth, Transcendence, Seed Jar, and Gathering Storm, because the Seed Jar plus Seed Jar plus Sweet Tooth combo gives you the ability to print a bunch of free fruit every time you kill the fruit past 2 minutes. You get an additional fruit that you can spawn, which gives you more gold because you get the Sweet Tooth, the extra 45 gold per fruit that you kill. Transcendence gives you the good cooldowns, and then Gathering Storm for a bunch of damage. First Strike allows you to get your power spikes quicker because of the gold, and allows you to do a bunch of burst damage early on in the game. And then for the spells, you're going to go Cleanse if the enemy have a lot of CC. You're going to go Exhaust if they have a lot of burst damage, and Assassins, and Barrier if they have a lot of poke, and they don't really have anything else. But most of the time, Cleanse or Exhaust. So that's going to be it for the build. Now let's go on to the abilities and combos. Okay, so now getting into the abilities for Orianna. So starting off with her passive. So basically the way that her passive works, so obviously first is that her ball basically is connected to all of her abilities, and it returns to her if she goes too far from it. Then her other passive is that her attacks deal bonus magic damage, and then subsequent attacks against the same target within 4 seconds will deal an additional amount of damage. So basically you just do more auto attack damage each time you auto attack someone. Pretty straightforward. And then getting right into the abilities. So her first ability is just a ball that travels through enemies and obviously goes to an ending point and does damage to anything that it passes on the way. And then it stays on the ground and you can move it from wherever it is on the ground. Again, like that. And if you walk too far away, then it goes back to you. And then you can again do it like that. Then your second ability does damage in an area around your ball and also slows people like this. Pretty straightforward. And then your third ability calls the ball back to you and gives you a shield and also damages anyone that it hits on the way. And then lastly, your ultimate does damage in a big circle, knocking people up, grouping them together, and yeah, pretty much just that. So it's all pretty straightforward. One thing to keep in mind about the ultimate is if you use the ultimate like where the enemy is, you know, to this side of it, it'll pull them towards it. But then let's say you want to run away. You want to make sure the ball's in front of them, so it'll knock them, or you want to make sure the ball's behind them, rather, sorry, so it'll knock them away from you, so you get more distance created between yourself. So again, like, say I wanted to pull them toward me, obviously I'm going to have the ball here so they get closer. Say I want to pull them away, I'll make sure the ball's on that side so I can run further away. So that's kind of the gist of her abilities. Then explaining the basic combos. Also make sure for the upgrade order, first ability, then second ability, then third ability for upgrade and max, and obviously upgrade your ultimate whenever possible. And then again for the combos, basically very simple poke combo, first ability plus second ability. Very, very simple. You just throw your first ability out, then your second ability right after. Nothing too much more complicated than that. And then if you want, you can first ability behind them, second ability, and then third ability to draw it back. And then the final combo would pretty much be one of two things. Either first ability immediately ult, then second ability, third ability, or first ability, second ability for the slow so they can't run out of your ultimate, and then you ult, and then you third ability. So the typical full combo is going to be first, second, ult, and then third. I forgot to click my second, but you get the point. And then final thing to mention is stealing. So when you are trying to steal an objective, what you want to do is you want to throw your ball slightly behind the objective. So pretend that this was an objective. Throw your, actually I can just spawn the dragon. I think you can do that. Yeah, we'll just spawn the dragon here. So in 5 seconds, we'll... So basically, let's say you're over the wall. You're trying to steal it, right? What you want to do, you want to throw your ball to make sure that it's slightly behind the dragon or whatever it is. Then you would... Okay, well, the dragon ran away from me, but you get the point. So you would ultimate, second ability, and then third ability right after. That's going to be the best way to steal. This way, the third ability would be able to deal damage. So basically, again, first ability, second ability, or ultimate, second ability, third ability, and you're going to get a lot of steals. You do a bunch of damage, oftentimes over 1500 damage late game with that combo. Early game, still going to do like 800 plus very often, so you're able to kind of outspite a lot of junglers with that. Very important. And then for your wave clear combo, again, pretty much just first ability, second ability, third ability to wave clear. Pretty straightforward. So that is really it for the combos. Now let's get into the gameplay. Okay, so getting into the gameplay now, and the first tip is buy the skin because the skin looks really cool. And as long as you have that, you're probably going to win anyways. But going into the actual tips that you're kind of looking for, the main thing that you're looking for in the early game as Orianna is very similar to Syndra, where the two main things you're looking for is to poke people with your first strike when you can, in order to get more value out of your first strike and your runes early, so you can recall on the third or fourth wave and get mana boots. You don't necessarily need to play to hard win your lane early. So if you're into a matchup who starts pushing into you for free like this, just let them push and kind of just play around poking them if they walk up. So like here again, my main goal there was just to proc first strike. All I wanted is a little bit of first strike gold, and then I back off. You know, I could maybe get an auto in if I want, but I didn't want to get hit by his card. And then there, you know, if he gives me a chance to poke him, I'll poke him. But it's really all you're looking for early on. Is again, usually just to poke the enemy out a bit, get some first strike procs. And then once the wave is, you know, the third and fourth wave are coming, that's when you're looking to play around your, you know, pushing the wave and then recalling. The other thing that's important to understand is into a lot of mage matchups, you can play for kind of auto attack all-ins, because your auto attacks do more than the average mage. So if the enemy do give you a chance to all-in them, you can definitely go for that. So you see there, again, I get the first strike proc. Even though I miss my abilities, I take a lot of autos, and look how much damage my autos do. Again, more than the average mage would do. Even pretty good into a Twisted Fate, even when I missed a couple abilities. The main thing is, again, we trade around our first strike when we can. We use our abilities when the enemy walk up for last hits because it's easier to land on them. And then we just look for the first ability, second ability combo with the trades as much as possible. That is really your early game bread and butter. I can't talk for some reason, is the first ability plus second ability combo. And then again here, you notice how now I'm trying to get some wave clear going and clear the wave as fast as possible because I have mana boots. So again, what do? I clear the wave super fast, get that recall off. It looks like I actually stay here. Honestly, a mistake by me. I think the reason I stayed is because my jungler is coming. And so I was like, hey, maybe I can find a kill. And you see I kind of win the poke trade, so it's not a bad decision, but honestly, hindsight wise, probably just recall right away and it's going to be a bit better, because then we'll get back in lane stronger. Again, I'm going to make mistakes sometimes. I don't play perfect every game, but you see here, now we're just ending up skirmishing a little bit with our Zed, and that's fine because, you know, he's pretty strong, and I think he might get that kill. I think Twisted Fate barely lives, actually. But yeah, we end up going and fighting with our teammate here just because our jungle does make a play, and you know, then we end up looking for the recall after that. Not really a big deal, but again, you're typically looking for that mana boots recall. Sometimes things go different, you know, like in this situation where we did end up staying a bit longer, and then we just go back to lane and it's pretty much the same thing. Poke for the first strike proc. Again, that first strike's just going to get you a bit of a gold lead pretty much every early game, and then you just play pretty reactive. If your teammate makes engages, makes plays, you go in, and then again, once you have control of the wave in the mid game, or rather in the middle of the early game, around 3 minutes or so, you can start pushing faster so you can find roam angles. So this is typically, again, you'll recall for mana boots, come back, push the wave, and then once you get control of the wave and you push it, that's when you're going to look for a roam. Because now I push the wave, so I have time to roam without really losing out on anything. And so we find this roam angle here. We make sure to get poke onto the enemy, get a bunch of damage onto the Tristana. And then we can stick around for some plates because of the fact that we zone them off so hard as well. So we just get a bunch of poke on them for free. Twisted Fate's kind of just having to look for an ult or something here. And again, at this point, the enemy are so zoned off that there's really not much that they can do. Twisted Fate's not really in a good spot. And we're just able to get a pretty easy kind of cleanup here with our team. So yeah, again, very straightforward early game. Usually what we're looking for, you can see here, I'm going to flash in a second onto the Tristana. As we see here, I make sure to pick up my ball, and then I just flash in first ability here, and then get out of the way. But yeah, first 3 or 4 levels, or first 3 or 4 waves, rather, just trading around first strike, trading to poke the enemy when they walk up for last hits, and then you recall mana boots, come back with mana boots. Ideally, you push the wave. You don't have to push it right away, but you want to get control of the wave at some point, push it. Once you've crashed a wave that just reached, you can then look for your first roam. If you find something on the roam, great. If not, you're just going to scale up and farm. Because the main priority of Orianna is to farm in the early game, regardless of whether or not you get kills. It doesn't really matter. Main goal is to get gold. And so here again, we ended up having a better early game where we did get some kills. But if we got none, we'd be perfectly happy. Just making sure we hit that death cap around the Baron or so, and hitting our 2 items before second dragon. As long as we're able to hit those spikes, we're perfectly happy, because you can carry a lot of late games just with your absolutely absurd scaling, regardless of how your early game goes. And that is really what you'll kind of see in a lot of games of me playing Orianna. And then, yeah, sometimes your early game does go well. Another really important thing is patience with the ultimate. You kind of want to make sure you're waiting until the enemy actually give you a really good angle ult. Like, you're not going to notice, I'm not going to spam my ult. I'm not going to use it all the time. I'm not going to accept just like some random ults for no reason. I'm going to wait till my ball's on the ground for a little bit. I'm going to make sure the enemy are actually in a position where they don't have their dashes to get out. But yeah, I'm going to be pretty patient with my ult generally is something you're going to notice. I'm sure I'm going to say that and you're going to watch me miss an ult right after, just because, you know, that's usually how things go. But generally, you do want to be pretty patient with it. Wait till the enemy kind of come into you, and then you find like that big ult there. In that case, or our Gwen obviously used her second ability, so it wasn't as, you know, big as it should have been. But nonetheless, you saw how I kind of waited for them to group. I wait for the fight to kind of play out, and then I'm looking for that ult later on, rather than looking for, you know, the ult right at the start of the fight. But then there, we're able to get a nice little triple kill in that skirmish. And so, again, nothing crazy done so far here. It's just all of that consistent gameplay. It just turns out in this game, I got a lot of kills off it. Other games, I'm going to do these same things, and I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to go even. I'm not going to get a bunch of kills, but I'm just going to be building up that gold lead for through my first strike procs, through the sweet tooth, and through just farming lanes properly. So again, here, making sure I get that gold from the Herald, and then just backing off again, making sure I get my recall because I am low mana, hit our item spike, and then now again we just follow up whenever our teammates go for plays. We make sure to push mid wave before we rotate. Definitely another really important thing to understand as Orianna. You want to be getting that mid wave pushed and then look for plays, because that mid wave being pushed is pretty much giving you complete access into the enemy's, you know, just into the enemy, right? Because then they have to walk into you because you've already pushed the wave, that type of thing. There I do walk into a Blitzcrank who's in the bush, so I kind of have to go around. We're still able to poke the enemy out here pretty nicely, as you saw. And then we just go around to kind of group with our teammates. We use the little, whatever you call it thing, to end up jumping over the wall. And then again, I mean, our team is doing pretty well here, so there's not too much to say. The main things you're looking for in fights is keep track of the enemy spells so that, you know, a champion like Blitzcrank doesn't engage on you and jump on you as he did there onto me. And then just poke the enemy out as they walk in. And again, it's a lot easier to poke the enemy out if you do end up using the fact that you push the mid wave first to obviously make the enemy have to respond to mid wave and get vision of them, that type of thing. And then again, notice how as soon as the mid wave comes, I'm going right onto that mid wave, and then I'm looking for my next choice. So I push a mid wave, then it's like, okay, can I take a turret? Can I roam? Can I recall? Can I ward? Any of those things work. It just depends on what, you know, presents itself. So if there's an objective up, obviously you're going to go to the objective after you push the wave. If you push the wave and you have a lot of gold or you're low mana, you're going to recall. If you don't know where enemy jungle is, you have nothing better to do, you're going to ward. And obviously when the turret's easy to take, you're going to take the turret. So it's not too complicated. Orianna, Syndra, these types of mages, they actually have a very simple playstyle. And what's really important is just focusing on getting your own gold, selfish gameplay, and then playing the team fights well, making sure you can keep track of enemy spells, making sure you don't overextend, all of that type of stuff. So again, we're just always trying to hit those certain item spikes. Kind of, you know, again, usually second item before second Drake, and the death cap around the Baron spawn timer. If you're hitting those spikes, then you're happy. You know, that's really the main goal. Here I'm using my ball for vision. It does give vision of bushes, if you did not know. And then we're just using it to zone the enemy off. They can't really walk forward without taking a bunch of poke. And we just make sure to walk back. I thought I juked that. Turns out I didn't juke it because I suck. But we land a nice little ultimate there. And the enemy, they can't really do anything. My voice randomly, I don't know what just happened, but I will drink some water. Apparently, talking is hard for me sometimes. This is the third rank 1 champion video I have recorded today, so apparently my voice is not working anymore, which is a little unfortunate. But yeah, regardless, I mean, you can see pretty straightforward. At this point, we're very, very ahead. This is a really good early game, and I don't think it matters too much whether or not the game goes well or poorly. We're going to be explaining the same thing. Again, you see the way I'm playing, I'm going to play the same way, even if the enemy are way ahead. The only difference is if the enemy are really, really ahead, what's going to be different is I'll be playing a lot more to just cycle between waves and farm regardless of what happens. So like, let's say there's a second dragon and my teammates go to fight, but we're really behind. I'm not going to go to that second dragon. What I'm going to do is probably push a mid wave, then go to the other side away from the dragon and farm that wave as well, and then take the turret if there's a turret there with the gold bounty on it. If there's no turret, I'll probably go back to mid, or I'll farm a jungle camp. You're just looking for gold because your champion's really good at coming back in games due to the fact that you do so much damage on death cap even if your team is behind. You're really good at stealing objectives, so if the enemy do decide to start a Baron, you can often steal it over the wall, and then get kind of a comeback angle from that. All those types of things are really important, and so those are just kind of some things to keep in mind as well if you are playing Orianna. And then here he flashes onto me because he's really mean, but I do use the jumpy thing. I really need to learn a blast cone. It's called a blast cone. And then Twist of Fate just walks into me and lets me kill him. So thank you, Twist of Fate. I appreciate that. But yeah, we just end up chasing him down now at this point. I think I remember missing my spell there. Yeah, but then we kill him there. So again, nothing too complicated. This champion is really just about patience. It's about understanding farming well. And then once you get to that point where you're really strong, you're just going to melt through people like you see me doing here. And again, at this point now, when you are ahead in the game, the main goal is just control the mid wave, get the mid wave pushing, and then look for whatever decision you can make after that, whether it's, again, recalling, warding, roaming, fighting, whatever you see is fit. And again, you don't really want to take those fights when your team is behind or when they're fighting over no objective or when there's nothing really to do. You'd rather just, take that time when the enemy are distracted to push a turret, to farm a wave on a side lane after you already got a mid lane wave, to farm your teammate's jungle camp if he's going and fighting in Timbuktu or whatever he's doing. But then when there is the Baron up, you need to start grouping in mid a lot more, and you need to start actually fighting with your team. So now that Baron's up, I need to make sure I'm controlling the mid wave. I need to make sure I'm controlling the Baron side of the map with vision, with my balls, with all those types of... I said balls, that was pretty funny. And then you just make sure, again, once you have control of the Baron side, you're just poking the enemy as they walk up to it, and it's pretty much as simple as that. So again, I'm definitely making Orianna seem pretty simple. Of course, the more you play it, the more you'll find these like little niche things where you'll get a lot better with zoning or with your alt landing or those types of things. But a lot of those are kind of mechanical things you just get used to by playing the champion more. But in terms of the strategy of it, it's all pretty simple. And in terms of the combos, it's pretty much, again, you just first ability, then you second ability, and you either third ability if you need, the shielding or you want the ball to come back to you, or you just alt them. Again, it's not a complicated combo, and that is pretty much the gist of it. It's the first ability, second ability poke, and then sometimes you throw the third ability in. And then if you are trying to steal objectives again, obviously the first ability, alt, and then second ability to get the steal. And that's pretty much that, as we kind of talked about. I'm recording this before I actually record the combo section because right now the game won't let me log into it, so I can't actually do that, but I will obviously be recording the combo section, and that'll be, before this gameplay. So I'm kind of just mentioning that now in case I forget to, because sometimes I forget things. But yeah, I mean, at this point, again, we're just using our ball to zone. Again, make sure before you walk into bushes, you use your first ability to get vision of the bush so that the enemy can't surprise you or anything like that. And then again, once you're ahead, control mid wave, go into the jungle of, the Baron, and just look for poke there. Again, very straightforward. As I talk about a lot, I say the word straightforward a lot because a lot of these champions, they are simple. I feel like I've pretty much solved like mages, at least Orianna, Syndra, where again, solo queue in both legend and legendary ranked and rank 1 in regular ranked, I have over a 60% win rate on both Orianna, Syndra, and it really is through such simple strategy. Like, it's nothing complicated. It's definitely some of the easiest macro that you're going to have is the way you play these champs. And then you go into the fights, you just wait for the enemy to walk onto your ball, and you get that one shot like you saw me get onto that Tristana there. Again, you're usually not using your ultimate right away when you throw out your first ability because the enemy can dodge it. You're usually using it once the ball's been out for a little bit. The enemy kind of walk into you, they forget about the ball because it's hard to keep track of in the fights, and then all of a sudden, boom, you move it slightly with your first ability into a big ult, or they walk straight into it, and you get that 2-man ult, or you catch someone out. And that's just usually what you're looking for. And then again, you can smite objectives really well. First ability, second ability, if you're just, trying to secure it and you're not super worried about the enemy stealing it. Otherwise, you throw your first ability, then you ult and second ability for the steal. So you saw there, I smite it. It's because I do so much damage in just first ability, second ability. I'm going to outsmite my jungler 95% of the time. And you're going to outsteal the enemy jungle if you do ult, second ability very, very frequently. Obviously, you can third ability it back to you at the end as well and get that little extra damage. Very, very effective for steal. I've came back Like, I've probably won at least 20 games, not even joking. 20 games this season, at least 10. Um, just from stealing a Baron when I'm losing. Like, I'm losing, like, sometimes, like, 10k gold down. The enemy start a Baron, we steal the Baron, and then we get gold bounty, we win. Like, it's crazy how frequently you can do this as Orianna, and so it's definitely something to keep in mind. And again, here, build, you know, pretty straightforward, as you normally see me do. Always usually the Luden's Orb and Death Cap, and then the Crown 95% of the games, like we said. You know, you get the anti-shield if you need it. If you don't need it, then pretty much just following the exact build. I don't like Cosmic Drive that much. I haven't actually recorded the build section. I'm pretty sure I'm going to talk about this as well. But yeah, the Cosmic Drive, I mean, just usually not enough damage, usually not super useful. But if that's something you prefer, you can. And again, just using my ball over the wall, get some vision, and then hope the enemy walk into it. But pretty much just poke them out. Again, it's a lot of patience with this champion. Just get your ball on the floor, wait for the enemy to kind of put themselves in a position to walk into it. You don't need to rush it. You always have that kind of zone control. And then anytime the enemy walk up, you just poke them literally half their health when you are fed. It's pretty insane. And then there I missed my ult because I suck. So yeah, that's unfortunate. But you could just pretend like you didn't see that and we won't mind. And then there at this point, we're legendary. Our teammates going into 9 people and we end up killing them. But we die, so we lose the perfect KDA. Very sad. Made me real. I did cry after this game because I lost my perfect KDA. It was like keeping me up at night. Which is very unfortunate, but it's all right. So we did kind of stomp this game. Normally, I don't love showing stomps, but I didn't have a lot of recent Orianna gameplays because we got rank 1 a while ago, and most of the ones were stomping because I'm just too good. I just beat people too quickly. It's really, it sucks being the best, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to stop making random sarcastic remarks that aren't actually true. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Again, this is my rank 1 Orianna guide. If you're interested in coaching as well, you want to be coaching Orianna or any other champion, I've been rank 1 in solo queue, so just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or through the link in the description to my Discord server to DM me for coaching, just $25 an hour. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.